Okay, boys and girls, today in reading we are going to be working on a Comp Plus assignment. So please get your workbook and let's go through it together just like we do in class in the beginning. Okay, so we're going to be on lesson 22, which is literary elements, which is the theme is what we're talking about. So you can open to page 89 and we'll do this first part together just like we do in class. Okay, so boys and girls, theme is a part of a story, just like characters are a part, plot is a part, setting is a part of a story. And a theme is a lot of times what the characters learn, okay, a lesson that could be learned, or a message that the author wants to get across. Now, there are often many themes to one story, so it's you as the reader can be thinking carefully about that. It helps you to understand what you're reading if you're thinking, what is the author trying to teach me or tell me about this? Or what are the characters learning? That is the theme. It's the big idea of the story about a lesson. So when you think about this, some of the stories we've read recently, so yesterday we read an article called Just Plain Snaky. And one of the themes was the idea that the author was getting across that some people have misconceptions about snakes and boa constrictors, and here are the real facts. So she wanted to give us some more information so that we could make a more proper judgment about boa constrictors. So that was a theme. When we read A Snake in the House, one of the themes for that was, well, let's think of what the characters learn, especially the mom, Mrs. Peroni. Okay, so remember, she was very fearful of snakes, but the more experience she had with the snake, the less fearful she got. So one of the themes were you can overcome your fears by experiencing it in safety. Okay, that would be a theme. Let's think about when we read the biography of Helen Keller, let's think about the theme of that. And remember how she was just helping people always thinking about how she could help other children or help other people in need, even though she was disabled. So a theme for Helen Keller could be helping others no matter what. So there's always a theme to the story, and like I said, often there are many themes. Remember way back at the beginning of the year, toward the beginning of the year, when we were writing our book reviews on Secret in the Maple Tree. Remember how we could choose a theme, and there was prayer was a theme, family was a theme, getting along with enemies was a theme. So it's just a great comprehension skill when you're reading something to think, what's the big idea that the author's getting across, or what am I learning, or what are the characters learning? Okay, so that is what a theme is. It's the big idea or a lesson learned in the story. All right, so let's look on page 89 and let's read that first paragraph together. Every story always has one big idea that the author wants you to understand. In some stories, the big idea is a lesson about life. Okay, so let's think about the stories that we've read where characters learned a lesson in life. Lots, right? Maybe the author wants you to understand that friends are important or that practice makes perfect. Sometimes the author tells you what the big idea is, but not always. So sometimes you've got to figure it out by what the characters do, or what the characters think or say. When you read a story, think about what the characters learn and ask yourself, what does the author want me to know from this story? Your answer may be the big idea. So I want you to underline this sentence here, okay? When you read a story, think about what the characters learn. Okay, and then underline the next section too, where it says, ask yourself, what does the author want me to know from this story? Okay, so when you have questions about the theme, I want you to come back and look at these sentences. They're going to help you understand what the theme is. Okay, so let's read this short little story about the bear and the bird cage, and let's see if we can come up with the big idea or the lesson learned, which is the theme of this story. Okay, so we're reading the story about Bear, and see if you can figure out what the author wants you to understand. Okay, so read with me. Bear listened quietly to the bird's song. It was so lovely that he decided to capture the bird so that he could hear its music all the time. In the bush there were two birds. One was plain with dull brown feathers. But the other's orange feathers were as bright as sunshine. The beautiful one must be the singer, said Bear. He snatched it, but the beautiful bird did not sing. It squawked so harshly that Bear let it go. From the safety of a treetop, the plain brown bird sang a song that was as sweet as honey. So what do you think? So let's go back to these sentences up here, okay? In this story, what did the characters learn? So what did Bear learn? I want you to think about that, okay? And then what does the author want me to know from this story? What lesson can be learned from this story? Okay, so let's look at our choices down here, okay? So we're going to think of the best choice. And remember, we always read all four, even if we think we've got it right away. We always read all our choices. So the first one says, you can't always judge something by the way it looks. That sounds pretty good, right? He was judging the birds. He thought the orange one would sing better. Let's go to this one. Beauty on the outside means beauty on the inside. That could be a theme for another story, but I'm not sure that this is quite it for this one. Okay, look at the next one. Treat others as you wish to be treated. Now, that's an awesome theme. That goes with the golden rule from the Bible, doesn't it? But do you think that was the lesson that the author was trying to have us learn? I'm not sure. Okay, and then the last one. Birds can make beautiful music. Well, that is true, but did Bear learn that? Did all birds make beautiful music? Okay, so which was the lesson that the bear learned? Which one of those four? Okay, so you fill in your circle and I'll tell you the answer in a second. Okay, so if you filled the circle in for you can't always judge something by the way it looks, that would be correct. That was the lesson that the bear learned. He was making a judgment by what the birds looked like, thinking if it looks beautiful, it must sound beautiful too. But he was wrong. He judged by the looks. Okay, so what details helped you choose your answer? Well, you think about that for a minute. You can pause me, okay? All right, well, I'm looking at this detail, okay? When he was looking at the orange bird right here, okay, he said the beautiful one must be the singer, said Bear. He was making a judgment on the bird's looked. And then we find out that the beautiful bird did not sing, it squawked. So the details that helped me choose my answer were that he said the beautiful one must be the singer. Okay. All right, so we're thinking about theme and what the author wants us to know or what the characters learn. That's the big idea. So you can always come back to that first section. Look at your underlined sentences to help you figure it out. Okay, so you're going to read this story called Jake's Haircut. It's a pretty entertaining story. Okay, so you're going to read about Jake and his dog. His dog's name is Cal. And I want you to think about the big idea that the author wants you to know from reading the story. So what is a lesson that Jake learned? Okay, what is a lesson that the author's trying to get you to learn too? Okay, so Jake is the boy. He's got a couple problems, so pay attention as you read. What are the problems that Jake is trying to figure out? Okay, and think about what Cal's going through. Okay, remember Cal is the dog. And then when you get to answering your questions, okay, so first one, what are Jake's two problems in the story? Remember, there are two problems, so there should be two problems that you mention here. And then for number two, this is a comparing question, right? How are Jake and Cal alike at the end of the story? You might want to write at the end of the story. How are they alike? So find a comparison at the end of the story between Jake and Cal. Okay, and then look at number three. What is a theme of friendship that that you can learn from what Jake learned? Okay, so what is something about friendship that you learned from this story? Okay, then you're going to put an X. Now, this is not numbering the details of the story in order. Look at the instructions carefully. It says, read each story detail. Write X next to the details that have to do with the big idea of the story. Okay, so we're thinking of the big idea. What's the lesson learned? What is the theme of